Hello everyone, Mariana here from Change in Anthropopathy, and today I'm coming on here to talk about something that is really common all around us. It's gluten and dairy sensitivities. So I want to talk about it because so many clients and so many people always asking, "Oh, do I really need to eliminate totally gluten? Do I really need to eliminate everything of dairy and milk from my diet?" When we recommend naturopaths or nutritionists or functional practitioners recommend elimination of those food sources. We don't do that just to restrict somebody's diet. We do that because it's well known that gluten and dairy causing and increasing inflammation, production of inflammation in our body, especially in our gut. And in some cases, when people already have some chronic conditions, especially autoimmune conditions, increase of inflammation, adding inflammation doesn't help and should be really restricted. Restricted eating those foods that contain gluten and contain dairy. So foods that contain gluten, we all know that's mostly some of the grains and the flours and products made from that. What is wheat, barley, rye, spelt, durum or semolina. And where else you can find gluten? It's mostly in malted beverages like beer, soy sauce, some other packaged foods like some packaged soups, could be in some even ice creams and chocolates, some crackers, dips, pasta, etc. So it's very very important to read the labels of the packaged foods if you're buying the packaged foods. Main proteins in gluten are glutenin and gliadin, and most of the time gliadin is the protein which is responsible for most of adverse health effects and most adverse symptoms that causing the issues with gluten when we consume gluten. Sometimes people could be sensitive to wheat or to some other proteins in wheat because the main proteins in wheat are albumin, globulin, gliadin, gluten, and not necessarily only specifically on gluten. So some people are sensitive specifically on wheat, not necessarily on other products which contain gluten. Gluten, because of inability of our body to digest properly those proteins in gluten. Gluten can cause increased inflammation in our body, cause leaky gut, and when people are become sensitive on gluten, very often it's happening that hand to hand with that, some other food staple, some other food item that people eat very often. Person who is sensitive on gluten that eats very often because you often eats, for example, milk, dairy products. They also become allergic, develop allergic and sensitivity reaction to dairy and dairy products. In dairy, we have two main proteins that causing the issue that are not easy digestible, and that's lactose and casein. People who can't digest lactose usually don't have enough enzyme lactase, which helps digestion of lactose. In case of casein, what is the main protein in milk, in cow's milk, casein, because of so overly processed milk, dairy products and milk in our today's day, so we don't have a really fresh cow's milk. It's coming from the cows who are eating the grass and enjoying the sunshine and are always outside. Today we have a stack of cows standing next to each other inside and eating lots of grains, and in those food and grains, people adding the antibiotics, adding gums, adding the industrialized and enzymes, which all causing that these proteins, especially casein in cow's milk, change its molecular structure and becoming a molecule that really resembles and mimics a gluten molecule, molecules in the gluten. So this creating another inflammatory response in people who are already sensitive on gluten. So very often you will see that people who are sensitive on gluten become sensitive also on dairy, especially milk. So what's happening when that overly processed milk we consume, if people don't have enough enzymes to process and digest those proteins in milk and in dairy, that milk and dairy will sit in our gut over a long period of time and start to really rotten and cause production of gas, which causing distension, causing the gas, flatulence, and sometimes pain. So this creating those symptoms which are really well known for anybody who have dairy or gluten sensitivities and allergies. So in that case, we starting to have a creation of the secondary inflammation and secondary inflammatory reaction in the gut. So that also causing the intestinal permeability or leaky gut, and also causing the imbalance in our gut, a good gut microbiome. So if we are looking for somebody who is sensitive on gluten, and if somebody who's sensitive on gluten eats food with gluten, its research has shown that a response to that gluten item, that gluten food and gluten proteins in gluten can last up to 6 months each time that you eat that. So that's why it's very important to follow the advice of the functional health practitioner or naturopath or nutritionist or medical doctor to totally avoid eating foods with gluten if you're sensitive to it, especially if you have another autoimmune condition along the sides. So for example, very often in thyroid conditions, in autoimmune thyroid conditions, which could be underactive thyroid, it could be Hashimoto, and Graves' disease is overactive autoimmune thyroid condition. The protein in gluten, that gliadin, what I mentioned, is very similar in structure with to the thyroid tissues. So when gluten goes through the intestinal barrier and enters the bloodstream, in the cases of leaky gut, the immune system, which is already producing certain antibodies against thyroid, because the person, what we are looking at, it has autoimmune thyroid condition, will start attacking similar molecule, what is gliadin, and producing extra antibodies against now that gliadin, what we are consuming with the gluten. So that's why it's really, really important to eliminate totally gluten, or eliminate total dairy in cases of autoimmune conditions, for example, in this case, as giving thyroid. So hope this helps, and hope helps you understand why we are always recommending some food restrictions. It's not nice, it's not pleasant, but there are out there so many replacements today that could be used instead of foods that contain gluten or dairy. So it's much easier in today's day than in the past. But also, we should be cautious with also those gluten-free, dairy-free replacements, which also can contain some other additives and some other food sources that are not really good for our gut health and our health in general. I'll see you in the next video, and you have a great rest of the week. Bye for now.